Hey everybody, welcome to Garden Time with Belle. I am back in my greenhouse today because I'm working on a project that's been going on for the last, I would say, at least 2 or 3 weeks, and that is to take the plants that I've been growing this season out of the greenhouse and getting them planted. The last video I shared with y'all, you want to check that out. I'll put it in the link below. I showed you how I took some plants that I started in here and planted them out behind me in my raised bed garden. I also direct sowed some zinnia seeds out there. So if you haven't seen that video, I'll make sure I leave it in the description below, in a link there, and you can check that out. But today's project is to get some of the annual flowers that I started from seed out into another garden bed. This time I'll be in one of the east facing beds that's close up to my house. Right now I call it my, what am I calling it? My work in progress bed. That's because I've had some challenges in this particular bed, and it's really something that I want to have more color and more life and a bigger variety of plants. So I'll take you out there in a little bit and I'll show you, of course, what's already in the bed, but you're going to see that there are some hydrangeas for the big wow in the bed. And then I'm going to be putting in some of these annuals that I have grown all by myself from seed and am pretty proud of. So today I am planting celosia, gomphrena, and salvia, all things that I grew from seed. And I'll turn the camera around here in just a little bit and show you where these seedlings are in their trays in my greenhouse. And you're going to see some of the seedlings were amazingly easy to grow in the greenhouse, and some not so great. In fact, I'll just tell you, one of my real challenges, because I didn't know enough about this type of plant, was that I tried to grow agastache or agastache, however you want to say it, from seed. And I wanted to grow it because it was absolutely beautiful in the seed catalog. And I had seen agastache in other people's gardens and thought, that's incredible. I want to add that to my space. Well, I sowed 24 seeds, and one and only one has survived. And here's what I discovered. I should have done my research before on this seed, but I didn't. And what I discovered since then is that agastache or agastache seed needs cold stratification. Well, I did not do that before I tried to germinate it. And what that means simply is that some seed needs to be cold for a certain number of weeks before you sow it, before you try to germinate it. And that's where I missed the boat. That particular seed, it said in my research, it takes, you're supposed to put the seed in, I believe, in your refrigerator for 1 month to get it nice and cold for several weeks before you try to start sowing the seed. And that was my big error, but that's all right. Gardening's all about learning and trying again. And so you better believe next year I will be sticking that seed in the refrigerator and trying agastache again in the garden. So anyhow, yeah, I think we just need to get to it. So I am going to turn the camera around and show you my little seedlings. And then we're going to get them out to the garden and I'll show you where I'm going to place them. Okay, so here they are. These are the seedlings that I'm going to place outside in that east-facing bed. It does get at least 6 hours of sun, so I think these should be okay. These are mostly sun-loving annuals. Take a look at the gomphrena. I grew a gomphrena. Carmine is the variety from seed. I started this about 2 months ago in these smaller seed cell trays. And don't look at this. This was a different variety. I've already planted those out. But here's gomphrena and here's gomphrena. And boy, can you tell the difference? So I've learned something that when you bump it up into a larger container, which I think I bumped these up probably a couple of weeks ago, they really needed that to take off. So note to self, Belle will need to make sure she bumps her gomphrena up next year. And of course, I didn't have great germination, but that's all right. They're going in the ground. We'll see what happens. I think what was most easy for me to grow this year, my very first time growing celosia, Asian Garden is the variety that I grew. And these are in a 24 cell tray like this one over here. And then there are two that I potted up into bigger pots. And actually, I ended up growing two full trays of these. So I had 48 plants, and I just had a little garden party and gave about 22 of them that were this size away as gifts. And so I'm left with these to plant out today. And then, oh boy, this was a struggle. Salvia. Oh, Salvia, Veronica Blue. It looks so beautiful in the seed catalog. And I just had such a tough time. I mean, just look at those. I mean, some just completely bit the dust. I really do believe, though, to be honest, I think what happened with these salvia is I overwatered these trays. These are the self-watering trays, which are amazing, but I had filled it way too full. And I think I drowned them out a couple of months, about a month ago, and I should have just reseeded everything and started over. But I didn't. I thought, oh, I'll hold out some hope. So, this is a really nice size little seedling. This is not so great, but they're going in the landscape. Sometimes it is incredible. Once you take things and put them outside in the landscape, they do some great things. So I'm going to try that. We'll see what happens. And then I have to mention my Agastache raspberry daiquiri. I had big hopes and dreams. I sowed 2 rows of this and I only got one. And that's because I didn't know they needed cold stratification. The seeds have to be put in a refrigerator and for several weeks before you start them. So, yeah, that is the project for today. Lessons learned, some more lessons learned. So, I'm going to take these babies out. So, here we are at the garden bed that I am going to plant my annual seedlings into. And you can see here, these 3 are brand new Limelight Primes. They will get about 5 feet tall by 4 feet wide. So they're going to be the big wows back in the back. And then around them and in front of them are going to go the annuals I started from seed. But let me come in here a little bit closer and show you that I popped in, I couldn't resist, I popped in some Super Tunia Vista bubble gum in a little arc here right in the front. And I had to be strategic because if you've ever grown my favorite petunias from Proven Winners, the Super Tunia series, these petunias will get 3 to 4 feet in diameter. I've grown them several times, and that is no joke. In the landscape, they grow great. There is no deadheading, no legging. They get a mounding habit and then spread. And this will be, in a couple of months, this whole front edge will just be a sea of pink petunias. It's going to be lovely. So I think I'm going to do some of my celosia here, and here. And then, I don't know, little gomphrena somewhere and some salvia somewhere. And who knows? We'll see how it turns out. So next step is for me to move away some of the mulch. It's already been mulched, so I have to be careful and move some of that away. And don't need many other tools for the project. I got my seedlings sitting over there waiting for me. I've got my kneeling pad gloves, my garden knife, and of course some Biotone starter fertilizer that I'll throw into the holes before I plant. So I'll set up the camera and try to capture some of that for you all, and I've got to get busy.
So all my seedlings have been planted. Celosia in the back, followed by gomphrena, followed by some salvia. I didn't need to water them in because this bed is east facing, and actually we've had a lot of rain lately. So the ground was really wet actually as I was planting those in, and I've got drip irrigation underneath, and it'll run probably in about 2 or 3 days. So I think they will be just fine. Of course, I'll be checking on them and seeing how they do. And I have to show you, I mean, you got to have fun in the garden, right? I have to show you my one little agastache raspberry daiquiri seedling. I don't think it's going to do anything, but you know what? I just had to put it in the corner and just for giggles and grins. Well, that wraps up today's video of me planting out about 40 flowers that I started from seed. I planted my celosia, which were looking great and strong and big. I think they'll be fine. I planted some gomphrena. I think that's like has a 50-50 chance of surviving. And that Veronica Blue Salvia, I'm not holding out a lot of hope for those little starts. I mean, I think I have never planted a little start so small, but
That's the fun of gardening. If it doesn't work out, no big deal, because I have a couple options. Actually, I've been thinking I've got some starts left in the trays, and I'm going to pot those up in my greenhouse and grow those on. So if I need some replacement plants for some of these that might not grow, maybe I'll have some from the greenhouse in about a month. They should be really big. And then, of course, I can always go to my local nursery and get beautiful, full, lush plants and pop them in the ground. But as you know, one of my big garden goals for this season was to try to grow the majority of my flowers, herbs, and veggies from seed. And I'd say at this point, about 80%, 70, 80% of what I'm putting in the ground, I've grown myself from seed. So I consider that a success.
If you
So if
enjoyed,
you enjoyed today's video, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. And until next time, happy gardening.